I have taught Rembrandt before, but not.
You could tell your long.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
thank you very
It
much.
was announced that you were coming back from Krakow, was it? Or?
Yes, I was actually coming back from Auschwitz. I was there for a week with a tour that the Auschwitz Museum gives for historic.
I'm going to take this off for a minute, Dan, and go visit the ladies real quick. I don't want to be mic'd when I'm in there.
I just want to let you know that I've been charged as the adult education events chair
Yes.
with saying a few things about you and introducing you and
That's so nice,
and
Mike.
getting you rolling.
All right, that sounds good. We're
Okay,
getting near rolling time.
But I have deference for when you want to start.
Let's give us, it's just about 10:30 now. Let's give people a few more minutes.
Like 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
like 5 minutes and then we'll start.
Okay.
Because people might be trying to find a parking, but, just trying to.
Sure.
So Mike,
Yeah.
when you give the introduction, use this mic, and then when you're done, turn that mic off, okay?
Turn this one on.
Yeah, this way, there's an extra. If you
Okay.
need it, makes sense, because we don't want
Yeah.
feedback.
Yes.
Okay, actually, you know what? Leave it on, I'll turn it off upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, and you're.
Hello. Am I still on? Hi, Alex.
there's too much light.
Hey, am I still on? Can you hear me?
You are on, yeah.
All
I
right.
can turn it up, but when they stop talking, it'll be a lot better.
Okay.
Once you tell them to,
I don't want to tell them to shut up.
yes, it's recording already.
So
Anything
we
you
can,
say
we
right
can
now
watch
is,
it later.
yes,
Yes, that would be
Yes.
great.
Okay.
absolutely 100%. Oh, introduce you, yes, sir.
Alex, thank you so much for coming. Good.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. You could sit next to Dan.
And you met,
Okay.
did you stay on the train?
No, I actually told him he could sit there. Alice, I said he could sit there.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It's good.
Alex, it's okay. Sit here.
Sorry.
Sit here.
Leslie said.
No. I'm going to be up talking, so you sit. Sit.
I supported him for that. And then I continued to work in the same job forever.
Hi.
I love changing. It fits me which is where we live in Navy housing. But not because of Navy.
Maybe you want to say, where's my clicker? Oh. I have to make sure I have my clicker. Is this mine or theirs? Oops. I think it's theirs. Oh, phew. This is mine. It has the. Okay. I guess we can start now. It looks like we've got a decent group of people, and I think I'm talking softly because I'm mic'd. So we can start now.
We can start now.
Okay. I will stand right here. And
Are you staying? Oh, good. This is the Midwest. The way I learned about the Midwest is they closed the place in Chicago and I worked in New Jersey. And when we moved to another division of my company, the meetings used to start on time, and I thought that was ridiculous. So you didn't know that you were supposed to start on time either.
I just gave a few more minutes for people to come, but I think we're good.
I'm Judy, and
Judy, yes, it's fine. I'm going to start now.
and your name?
Leslie.
Yesterday we met. But
Right.
you had a different shirt on, and I'm blind. If someone changes clothes, I no longer remember their name.
Okay.
I'm gonna sit in the because I have a problem.
If people
I
would
think we're
sit, oh, sorry.
I think we're going to get started.
Is there going to be a test afterwards?
Absolutely.
Well, actually, this is not Temple Har Zion. This is the Art Institute of Chicago. Mike. Oh, that's a good idea.
And Charles, turn off the lights.
Testing. Okay.
Turn off the lights. Okay.
Okay. So we're very pleased to greet Linda
Leslie.
Blacksberg.
Leslie.
Leslie. Okay. Leslie. And this is a program that is very special because Leslie has background in specializing in received her PhD from University of Pennsylvania, specializing in Northern Renaissance art. And she taught humanities and art history at several universities. She comes to the subject of Rembrandt and the Jews from a long-standing interest in Jewish art and the Christian representations of Jews and Judaism. We're really fortunate to have Leslie be part of our congregation and to be called on to present her knowledge of this very special subject.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to begin my lecture. So if you all could sit as far forward as possible, because we're dealing with a light issue, and I think the closer that you are, the easier it'll be for you to see the images. All right. Everybody sitting where they're comfortable? All right, so Rembrandt and the Jews, Truth and Fiction. When you look at these two paintings, it's Isaac and Rebecca on the left, right here, and Bathsheba at her bath. Actually, Isaac and Rebecca used to be known as the Jewish bride, but like so many things with Rembrandt and other art, things change. So they are now called Isaac and Rebecca. When you look at the tender emotions, the empathy that Rembrandt finds in these subjects, particularly with Bathsheba, after she looks at the letter from David and is contemplating her future, it's hard not to think that there wasn't some special relationship that Rembrandt had with Jews and Jewish subjects. He painted a lot of images from the Hebrew scriptures, and so this has been a reigning idea for many decades, that there was something special between Rembrandt and the Jews. However, recent scholarship, beginning really in the 2000s, have dismissed this idea of specialness, saying that it's just a sentimental view from the 19th century. So today I'm going to look at the known points of contact between Rembrandt and the 17th century Amsterdam Jews. Do I hear a little feedback from this microphone? We need to turn this off. Yeah. Can you turn this off? Okay, thank you, Mike. So I'll be looking at the known points of contact and the real points of contact, the probable and the possible. I will especially focus on the nature of the relationship and what it means. The nature of relationship between Rembrandt and the Jews and what it means. Yeah. So here we have two paintings by Rembrandt, self-portraits. One very early, 1629, when he was only 23 years old. He was born in 1603. And another very late in his life, from 1665 to 1669. He died in 1669. And the paintings obviously emphasize Rembrandt's role as a painter. He's holding a brush, a palette in both works. In the later portrait, he has a very confident and bold presentation, like he is announcing his authority as a painter. Now, Rembrandt had his artistic training in Leiden and Amsterdam, and he moved permanently to Amsterdam in 1632, where he resided until his death in 1669. He was not an artist who traveled or went to Italy. He stayed firmly in his Dutch town. In 1639, Rembrandt purchased a large house on the Jodenbreestraat, which really translates as the Jewish Broad Street, perhaps from the number of Jews who lived there, and he lived amongst them. He knew there were many prominent Sephardic families, and eventually Ashkenazic families there too. And that house was the center of his artistic life for nearly 2 decades. In 1656, unfortunately, he declared bankruptcy and moved to more modest quarters elsewhere in Amsterdam. I have a little asterisk here just to let you know that unless I say so, all the paintings and works of art are by Rembrandt. Unless I say something different, rather. So we'll look at his first and only, well, I shouldn't say first, his only known portrait of a Jew that's accepted by scholars. And it's of Dr. Ephraim Bueno. And this is, on the left is an etching, it's a kind of print from 1647, and on the right is a preparatory oil sketch he did for the etching. Ephraim Bueno was a very distinguished man in 17th century Holland and Amsterdam. He was a physician, a poet, a translator, and a financial backer of Manasseh ben Israel's Hebrew printing press. That was the first in Amsterdam. And we'll get to Manasseh ben Israel in a little bit. Bueno was born in Portugal and one of many Sephardic Jews who fled religious persecution and the Inquisition to settle in Amsterdam, where they had religious and personal freedom as long as they didn't upset the public order. The Sephardic Jews began arriving in the 1590s, and then they were followed decades later by Ashkenazic Jews from Germany and Poland who were fleeing pogroms. So it became a place of safety and religious freedom and a place to prosper. Now, we should pay a little attention to how Ephraim Bueno looks. He's got a quiet demeanor, kind of introspective. He's wearing modest attire, simple black and white. The collar and the cuff is not rich in lace, which is one way that contemporary people in Amsterdam express their wealth. And his overall modest and quiet presentation was thought of as the ideal of a Jew, both by Jews and by non-Jews alike. The quiet, self-possession that he shows was esteemed by Spanish and Portuguese Jews, and modesty was also valued by Christians. They thought that Jews were too loud and aggressive. So I don't think things have changed very much, but anyways, they would have liked this portrait by, of Ephraim ben Moses, of Ephraim Bueno. Now we'll go on to the probable, and this is a really fantastic painting. It's a Belshazzar's feast from 1436 to 38. I'm kind of keeping track of dates, mainly because a lot of his things that relate to Jews and Judaism happen after he moves to that house on the Jodenbraestraat. And this story is from the book of Daniel. There was a great feast being held, and the host was King Belshazzar, described as a Neo-Babylonian. And he had looted the sacred, Belshazzar had looted the sacred vessels from the temple. And he used them in his feast, desecrating them. And in this scene, Belshazzar and his guests react in horror and fear as a mysterious hand appears, the hand of God, and writes out a foreboding inscription. I will tell you what the inscription was in a second. And this next day, King Belshazzar was dead. But the expressions on these figures, this woman with her mouth open, staring at what is happening, other expressions, this woman may be a servant holding a vessel. She was probably an attendee holding a drinking cup. They really show how fearful this was. And the hand of God is in the act of writing this, and the letters glow. Okay, so the letters spell out mene, mene, tekel, euphorcing. You have been, and the translation is, you have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. It's in Aramaic, which uses Hebrew script. Now, did Rembrandt learn Aramaic? What was the source of this inscription, particularly the format of it, which we'll get to in a second? Was it a Christian Hebraist? A Christian Hebraist is a Christian who has studied Hebrew and is very fluent and knowledgeable about it. And in Leiden, where he had studied as a very young man before he became a painter, there was a whole school of an Oriental school at the University of Leiden that taught Hebrew and Aramaic and other languages related to the Bible, because the Dutch Calvinists, although Calvinism was never an official religion in Holland, were concerned with biblical accuracy and knowing the Bible in its original language. Was it copied for a manual for learning Hebrew, which was also published in Leiden? And the answer to those two formulaic questions is no. Most likely, the source of the quote and its particular format is Manasseh ben Israel, right here, shown in a print by Solom Italia, who happened to be an Italian Jew working in Holland. And in Manasseh ben Israel's book in Latin, De Terminis Vitae, from 1639, that has the same particular pattern of letters, mene, mene, tekel, and so forth. What's unusual about this, I guess you could look up here and see it, Hebrew inscriptions generally run horizontally from right to left. And these are in columns running right to left. But you read it mene, mene, tekel, uforcing. And this was a particular format that Manasseh ben Israel had in his book. Now the hang-up is, the book is from 1639, which is after the painting of Belshazzar's feast. And so people have said that Manasseh worked on this book for quite a long time, and that Rembrandt may have known Manasseh, who was a very prominent figure in Amsterdam. He was a teacher of Jewish subjects to many of the Sephardim because they had been practicing Christians in Portugal and Spain to escape the religious persecution and the long arm of the Inquisition. So they think, it's generally thought by many scholars that Manasseh was the influence, influence in Rembrandt's inscription. So I just have a line here, and this is which I'm going to underscore this idea several times, which is the accuracy of the Hebrew Aramaic is not a product of Rembrandt's love of the language. He wasn't interested in Manasseh ben Israel and how he wrote this inscription for the sake of the Aramaic, the Hebrew, but a part of Calvinist Holland's concern for biblical accuracy. And we know that Rembrandt was interested in being as accurate as possible in his depictions of Jews around the temple because he owned Josephus, copies of Josephus' War of the Jews, and other histories that describe the temple as it stood before the Romans destroyed it, as well as owning a Dutch Bible, the Stadsbijbel. Okay, we are certain that Rembrandt made these 4 etchings for his book called Piedra Glorioso from 1665. And they are based again in the book of Daniel, and it interprets, in which Daniel interprets Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And it's an apocalyptic vision referring to Nebuchadnezzar's fall. Here he is as a statue, a stone statue that is breaking apart, and the eventual reign of the Messiah. The etchings were made 17 years after Belshazzar's feast. And they suggest not only did Rembrandt know Manasseh ben Israel, but knew him for a long time. Okay. And now we'll go, and probably, I'm going very fast through this, so we'll have lots of time for questions. And this is the Rembrandt and the realm of the possible, the Jewish face of Jesus. In the 1640s, shortly after Rembrandt moved to that house on the Jodenbredenstraat, he made a series of bust portraits. Some of them were bust portraits of the head of Christ, and some of them may have been his neighbors. And these portraits are of young Jews believed to be by Rembrandt. And there's an 18th century document, so relatively close to Rembrandt's own time, that said that Rembrandt sketched the Jews of his street, of his neighborhood. So we have some later, but nonetheless a source, documenting that Rembrandt was interested enough in the activities of his neighbors to show them. But why did he do that? He actually had an ultimate reason. If you look at left, you can see that one of his heads of Christ, and there is a visual relationship between these faces of Jews with the head of Christ. They both have a kind of long face, or the head of Christ has a long face, which you see here and here. He has a short beard and the same large brown eyes, kind of sad. Now, Lloyd DeWitt wrote a very interesting article in a catalog done about a decade ago for the Philadelphia Museum of Art called Rembrandt in the Face of Jesus, in which they explore this idea of Rembrandt using Jewish models for his type of Christ. And Lloyd DeWitt says he was searching for an ethnographically correct Jesus. Not some, I think now when we look at Bible illustrations, modern Bible illustrations, they tend to be blonde, handsome men. But that's not the kind of Christ he was looking at or aiming for. He wanted one that was true to Christ's earthly origins. And when they went through when they cataloged Rembrandt's possessions in his house at the time of the bankruptcy, they recorded several of these heads of Christ. And one of them had the inscription, it's no longer extant, that particular version, and it said, "Not at Leven," which in English means afterlife. So it again is a suggestion that he wasn't obviously painting Christ afterlife, but he was painting a subject that would have related to Christ images, to the Christ images. And here I've got again, that he owned the histories in terms of looking for that biblical accuracy. Now, what did Rembrandt want to do with his Jewish Jesus? He was trying to reform the northern model of Christ, the traditional model that had been handed down by generations to him. And this, we're looking at the left, right here, at a holy face that is after Jan van Eyck, the great Flemish 15th century painter, who I'm also very enamored of. And this kind of image was based on Byzantine icons and texts handed down from antiquity, the most famous of which is the Lentulus letter, which describes how Christ looked. And what Rembrandt wanted to do was create a more accessible, engaging figure that refers to Jesus's earthly Jewish heritage. And Rembrandt's new image of Christ appears in the rendering of this gospel story, the supper at Emmaus, in which Christ, after the resurrection, appears in bodily form to his followers. And they invite him to eat with them, and when he breaks bread, he miraculously disappears. And this type of Christ with the long, narrow face and the short beard is similar to this sketch. Is it truth or fiction that Rembrandt turned to Jewish models for his figure of Christ? It's possible. It's certainly intriguing, and it's possible based on the visual sources that we looked at and the circumstantial evidence such as the 18th century document. Now, before the 21st century, certainly in the 19th century, there was the artists who were emerging, the Jewish artists who were emerging and after emancipation, and were for the first time attending art academies, often run by the state. And one of the earliest of these figures, and died very young, unfortunately, is Maurice Gottlieb. He was a Polish artist, and this is his self-portrait as Ahasuerus. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. Ahasuerus, sorry. And seen here again, there's this quality of moodiness and introspection that we see in some of Rembrandt's own self-portraits, and also that rich red color, which you might remember was in the Rebecca and Isaac painting, and also in the garment that Rembrandt wore in that late self-portrait. Now, Gottlieb's emulation of Rembrandt was probably direct. This is a self-portrait from 1629 that, again, an early portrait that Gottlieb probably saw when he was studying in Munich. He went to the Munich Art Academy, and there are certain similarities, particularly this interesting outstretched neck posture. And there's a subject, Rembrandt achieves his moodiness here by casting shadows over his eyes. And here it's more internal. So I'm already at my conclusion. We've been here. We have plenty of time for questions. What we have seen is probably more truth than fiction. So there are some scholars that want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of relationship of Rembrandt to Jews, but we know from what we've seen that there are definite points of contact. But there's a catch to this, and that is the one known portrait of Ephraim Bueno depicts a Jew as Christians would like to see them, modern and modest and self-effacing. The Hebrew in Belshazzar's feast serves the biblical truth from a Dutch Protestant perspective, and his sketches of young Jews become a more engaging Christ. Rembrandt had a relationship with the Jews of 17th century Amsterdam, but on his own terms, and I should say on his own culture's terms. And now I'm open for questions, so anybody have any? Oh my God, the hands just shoot right up. Okay, Judy, and then you?
I just wanted to ask years. You mentioned that 1492.
No, not 1492. That's the years that,
16, I understand. And you're speaking about 1630 something. But
Right.
1492 is when the expulsion happened, and from Portugal, it was only, as I understand it, 5 years or so later.
right, there was an
So how did
expulsion.
150 years pass from when they left Portugal to when they arrived in Amsterdam?
Because they and their families before them were what they called Moranos. They they adhered to Jewish traditions in secret, but were living outwardly as Christians. The Portuguese and the Spanish Jews that came to Amsterdam did not necessarily know a great deal about Judaism because it had, though they may have personally identified with it, they had lost that direct knowledge. So people like Manasseh ben Israel, who was a great rabbi, had instructed them. And as a matter of fact, when the Ashkenazim came, they were much poorer than the Sephardic Jews. But the Ashkenazi held themselves proud because they had the direct connection with Judaism. They had never lost it. Does that help, Judy? Okay, yes?
So if you go back to the Gottlieb portrait,
The Gottlieb portrait.
Right,
I'll go back.
right, this one, the Gottlieb self-portrait. When you think of self-portrait, you think of someone erect and kind of looking either straight on or off to the side, but this self-portrait has him leaning over as if he's falling over or sleeping, or can you speak to the composition?
Oh, a little bit. Well, first of all, he's imitating a portrait by Rembrandt that shows that posture. Okay, so he's emulating that. And the second thing, it's a very introspective image where the Gottlieb, the eyes of the Ahasuerus are virtually closed. He's lost in thought. And one interpretation that I read of this painting was that Gottlieb was connecting with Ahasuerus, the king, who liberated the Jews from a horrible fate in Persia, to contemporary circumstances in Poland, where the Jews were oppressed and hard, and hoping in some ways that this too there would be a liberation there too. Does that help you a bit?
yeah.
It's hard, we can only know so much about an artist's motivation. And the honest connection is that of the relationship to the Rembrandt self-portrait. And then there's a internal aspect of the Gottlieb portrait that is purely that of that artist. Okay. Anybody else with questions? Yes, back there.
A statement and a question. We were recently in Amsterdam and visited Rembrandt's home, and there were pictures that he painted of young Africans. So he was curious about everybody and their facial structure.
Yes.
That's the comment. And we ended up, and then we saw art with Africans in it as servants or, as part of paintings, but he was clearly practicing. I had once read about the medical diseases of artists and painters, I was wondering, I remember reading that Rembrandt suffered from cataracts. So as he got older and older, his paintings got fuzzier and darker. Do you know anything about that?
Well, they do change. I'm gonna go I'll go forward. That one, no, this one's better. Go all the way back to the beginning here. Okay, it's hard to see in this light, but Rembrandt's painting structure changed, and they call it his late style. They don't necessarily relate it to a disease, but as he gets older, the brushstroke gets looser, more tactile. If you could see this really closely, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I think, okay, if you could see this really closely, you would see that on the forehead, there's just a bold stroke of paint that isn't modulated and mixed into the face. And I don't know if that's, I am doubtful of these medical interpretations that come late. Well, we see this and therefore it must be that. He may have had cataracts, but the images are sharp. Those circles drawn in the back, the mysterious circles drawn in the back of this portrait are sharp. It's his change in attitude towards depicting the figure and other images. The Isaac and Rebecca is quite late, and it's highly tactile, and the painting is very loose, and it's more atmospheric. It's more sensual. His early career, he was very tight. His painting brush, his painting was very tight and precise. And then in his older years, it loosens up. But I think when you have cataracts, I don't have them, thank goodness, then things are generally fuzzy. But with these images, some things are painted loosely and some things are more tightly representational. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, David.
Just a comment in relationship to that changing of style. I think it's fair to say that the early Rembrandt is very much painting like a lot of his contemporaries.
Right.
With this more dramatic Caravagesque look, contrast of light and dark and so forth. And the later Rembrandt, if you compare it to Hals or any of the others, are all painting with a more thick impasto, a more loaded brush, and less detail.
Yes.
So to that extent, in spite of his uniqueness as an artist and whatever else one wants to attribute it, he's very much a creature of his time in terms of the styles of art that are going on at that time.
All right, well, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else with a question? Or a comment? Yes, Judy.
My understanding, and I could be totally wrong, was that certainly in the early days of Christianity, when it was understood that Judaism was sort of the precursor, or at least there was a Jewishness associated with the history of Christianity, there was more of an understanding of the history that came before. Would some of these paintings and his interest in its Jewish, in the Jewish population of Amsterdam, would that be of interest to him because of his Christianity, or was he interested in the Jews for their Jewishness?
It was because of his culture. which valued, well, let me make sure I get the words right here. Dutch Calvinism and Protestantism in general were very Bible-oriented. And in the Bible, of course, are Jews, and there are the Jewish stories. But the Jewish stories are understood through Christian perception. And that is what Rembrandt is creating. All right. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today.
I want to thank you, Leslie. I want to thank you for converting the Har Zion, Temple Har Zion, into the Art Institute today. We really appreciate it. And
Not just here.
Your depth of knowledge here.
We had 22 people online as well, so
Wow.
very well attended program.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right.
Let's turn this off.
Are we going to rest it in there?
Do
Yeah,
anything
that
else.
would be great.